Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Laudermilk, and to Chairman Stile, and thank you certainly to our witnesses for being here today. The Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, or UOCAVA, is a critical component of our efforts to make sure every American, no matter where they live, has an opportunity to vote. The law provides protections for millions of voters, such as requiring states send ballots to voters at least 45 days ahead of federal elections, and the availability of a federal write-in absentee ballot, a backup ballot, essentially that allows overseas and military voters to still cast a ballot in federal elections if their ballot does not arrive in time. And while UOCAVA is a good start, there is work to be done. According to the Pentagon, in 2022, and some of the statistics my colleague just cited, but I think they bear repeating, 15% of military voters reported that they either did not receive the ballot in time or the ballot never arrived, and the voter participation rate for service members was 26%, well below national averages. Additionally, the overall voting rate for overseas citizens in 2022 was an estimated 3.4%, due in part to either real or perceived obstacles to casting a ballot from overseas. At an April hearing, we heard testimony about service members and their spouses never receiving their ballots, others paying out of pocket for a courier service to return their ballot from abroad when they could not access the mail system, and families stationed in Japan whose mail routinely takes 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. And in addition, I spent time along with Chairman Stile in both Japan and in Korea, we met with members of the United States Army about the challenges they faced in receiving ballots. So we could and we should be working in a bipartisan way to improve access to the ballot for military and overseas voters. Instead, what we've had over the last couple of years is my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have advanced policies that severely hinder ballot access and would disenfranchise service members, their families, and millions of other overseas voters. The SAVE Act and the President's illegal anti-voting executive order would fundamentally disrupt American elections and severely impact the ability of military and overseas voters to vote. For instance, their agenda, their bills, and the executive order would end mail and online voter registration. Their plan also requires voters to register in person at their legal or local elections office, something common sense tells you many military and overseas voters cannot do. If you're stationed in Japan, it's going to make it really difficult for you to register at your local Board of Elections. House Republicans passed the SAVE Act despite overseas voters asking them not to, and despite the fact that we repeatedly on this side of the aisle cautioned them that doing that would make it much more difficult, almost impossible, for military personnel to register to vote. In April, I wanted to invite a witness, a military spouse currently stationed overseas, who could have given voice to the experience of overseas voters and whose testimony we could have easily facilitated. Unfortunately, House Republicans did not want to hear from her, and they denied the request. I'm grateful to the witnesses here today. Thank you for your service to the country and to those who seek to vote from abroad. I'd hoped we'd also hear from voters these laws' impact. Pavan Parekh is the clerk of courts in Hamilton County, Ohio. He also served on the Ohio Ballot Board. He's also a JAG officer in the United States Army Reserve who has served overseas, a local official serving his community, and the elections process who has served his country in uniform. He would have made a great witness, would have added to the witnesses we have, which I'm grateful for. Again, my colleagues denied our request to have him appear at this hearing. I hope the committee can hear from him and others like him very soon. I think they have something to add, and their perspective will be welcome. In over 2 years of being in the majority, this is the first hearing held by my friends focusing on military and overseas voting. The Votes Act, championed by Election Subcommittee Chair Laurel Lee and Congressman Maxwell Frost, is a bipartisan bill which would actually increase military voter access, and we should move that bill forward. As I said in April, Democrats would happily waive this committee's notice requirements to call the Votes Act up right now to send it once again to the full House. So we have put forward numerous policies that would increase ballot access, and as always the case, there is never any proof to things like what the president has said about voting from abroad and overseas in the last election, because there's never any proof to anything he says about the difficulties in doing it. So let's focus on ways to improve access, and I think we're happy to work in a bipartisan way to expand access to people, and we'll advance legislation to help them. So I want to thank the chair. I look forward to, and I would like to, before I yield back, Mr. Chair, I'd ask unanimous consent to insert into the record a letter from U.S. Vote Foundation, Secure Families Initiative, Blue Star Families, the Association of Americans Resident Overseas, the American Citizens Abroad, and the Federation of American Women's Clubs Overseas, as well as a letter from the Vet Voice Foundation urging opposition to the SAVE Act and outlining ways in which it would create barriers to the ballot box for overseas voters. And with
Without
that,
objection.
yes, thank you. And I yield back, sir.